Hey everybody, it's Jody Almond, the founder and CEO of Solution Ministries, and I am here for day 5 of 30 days of how to be successful. Real talk with Jody Almond. And I am excited about what we've been able to dive into so far in the first 4 days and looking forward to progressing with that today. I want to start tonight and today by talking to you from a quote from a British historian by the name of Thomas Carlyle. Listen to what Thomas Carlyle said. The person without a purpose is like a ship without a rudder. In other words, Thomas Carlyle is saying if you don't have a purpose in your life, you can never find success and reach your destiny. And I agree with that concept and that quote very much. Now, we've already discussed the 10 ways to discover your purpose in the previous sessions. And however, it's not enough to simply discover one's purpose. We must know and now begin to understand how to develop that purpose if we are to become successful. And so I want to break down the ways we develop our purpose, and I want to help you gain clarity by explaining each one. Today, we're going to start discussing that in the first way we develop our purpose, and that is through being intentional. So I want to talk to you for just a few moments, if I can today, about being intentional. And so let's jump in and start teaching. How about it? You ready? And so let's talk about being intentional, because we wanted to learn how to develop and how to develop our purpose. And it's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together to even find your purpose. But now there's more pieces of that puzzle. If you've ever put a puzzle together, you know that you start usually with the border. That's the pieces that are the encasement of your purpose. But as you begin to fill it in with all these other pieces, now you see the picture begin to develop. And I want to talk to you about the development stage over the next few days, because it's not enough, as I've already alluded to, it's not enough to just know my purpose. I need to begin developing my purpose. And the way we're going to do that to start off with is we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional about developing our purpose. Now, we've already showed some intentionality in discovering our purpose. But now as we jump in, we want to be more intentional in developing our purpose. And so I want to share with you tonight in this session several ways that we are to be intentional and how we're going to have to be intentional if we're going to develop our purpose. So here we go. You see that intentionality is at the very center of what we're trying to teach in this lesson. And so I've used my chalkboard and I've used my writing devices and I've schemed it out for you. And we're going to go from the top to the middle left, to the middle right, and to the bottom. All right? And so we're going to start with perspective. Now, when we talk about perspective, I want to talk to you about this because this is crucial. Because when we get into this and we talk about being intentional, the first thing you have to understand, if we go to the center of this, is by being intentional, you have to develop yourself. You must be intentional about it. No one else can develop you except for you. No one outside of you can develop you except for you. You have to be intentional about allowing development to happen in your life. This is the illustration I give. You have two types of people when it comes to intentional living. You have the mountain climber and you have the valley dweller. Okay? And that's why I use that picture for intentional, because I wanted you to see the mountain. And when you look at the mountain, you see the mountain climber, the one who's willing to go uphill and put in the work and be intentional to get to a place where he can see what those in the valley can't see. Are you with me? Do you want to be a person who lives intentionally and gets to the peaks where you can see farther and see more than the ones in the valley? And that's what we want to do to be successful. Successful people see more and before other people. And the only way you can do that is to be intentional and be a mountain climber. The rest of the crowd are in the valley and they're valley dwellers. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the differences, because no one ever achieves success accidentally. It will always happen intentionally. You will never find someone that says, I don't know how I got here. No, they're going to tell you the stories of struggle. They're going to tell you the stories of setbacks. They're going to tell you the things that sideline them, but they are going to tell you that in mid all of that, they still kept climbing, right? So let's talk for a moment, because when we talk about seeing things, that's a perspective, right? And when we talk about perspective, there's two types of people that have perspective in this world. And I want you to think about this and think about which type you fall into. The first type is the pessimist. The first type is the pessimist. If you know these terms, you know that pessimism is basically negativity. It's the ones that are always saying, I can't. Pessimism leads to procrastination. Pessimism will always lead to procrastination. Think about this. If you have the attitude and the way you look and view life and your perspective is one of a pessimist, then why would you wake up in the morning and feel as though, and your view of things is that, well, I really feel like this is my purpose and I feel like this is what I should accomplish. But if you know, and in your mind, the way you believe and the way you think, if you're feeling that way, that it's not going to amount to anything, I'll never be able to accomplish it, I can't. I promise you're going to procrastinate and never go forward with the thing that you're feeling like you're being drawn to in your purpose. So the second type of person in their perspective is an optimist, the exact opposite. And optimism leads to productiveness. Optimism is positivity, not negativity, and it leads to productiveness. That person wakes up in the morning and they have the mentality that, you know what, anything is possible. I can do anything. I can achieve anything. And so when we talk about perspective, I'm not going to dive into this too much right now because it's a future lesson. But when we talk about perspective, it's all in how you think. And I want to encourage you, the Bible teaches me that as a man thinketh, so is he. And I believe that. I have seen that with my own two eyes. So I encourage you to consider your perspective. The second category that I want to talk to you about today is persistence. Persistence is key because even though we may have the right perspective, we may be mountain climbers. We may wake up saying, I'm going to climb to the top of Mount Everest. I'm going to climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm going to climb to the top of this mountain that is local, that's not even an esteemed mountain, but it is for me because I've never climbed a mountain. So I'm going to start with climbing this mountain. If you wake up with an optimistic attitude and you are desiring to climb that mountain, kudos for you. You've started. But I want you to understand that it's going to take not only perspective, but persistence in getting to the peak of that mountain, in reaching the summit of success. And the reason I say that is because you have to keep moving forward. So many times in our life, we feel like when a door closes, that means I'm on the wrong path. I beg to differ. So often doors close and you just have to try another one. We have the mentality, folks, that the mountain is always going to move. And trust me, I believe that there's times when the mountains do just seem to shift and move out of our way, but there's other times we either have to make choices. I have to climb over it or go around it or find a way under it or do something. But in order for me to get past this mountain, then I'm going to have to be persistent. I'm going to have to just keep going. I cannot quit. I have to keep pushing forward. And I want to encourage you because this is one of the things about being intentional. If I'm going to be intentional, I have to intentionally change my mindset and be optimistic. I have to intentionally be persistent and keep moving forward. So many times there's nobody there to push you along. There's nobody there to pull you along. It's an intentional act for me to be persistent about moving forward in life. I have to decide that I will not quit. I will not give up. If I don't do this, then my dream then my purpose will not come to fruition. And so in order for me to find success, I have to be persistent. I cannot stop. I cannot quit. I have to keep going forward. And I encourage you, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it is tough to keep being persistent because you have everything pushing against you. But yet there's that internal pull towards your destiny, towards your purpose. We talked about that yesterday. And I want to encourage you to keep moving forward. Do not allow yourself to stop at this part of your journey. Do not allow that to happen. Keep moving forward. Be persistent. Number 3, personal accountability. Let me help you with this. I believe it's good to have accountability partners. There's nothing wrong with that. But I believe it has to start with you being personally accountable to yourself. Hold yourself responsible for your decisions and your actions. Let me share some funny stories with you very quickly that I heard recently while listening to some leadership material and some teaching for myself. And I want to share this with you because I think it'll bring a little humor, but it brings some relevance to what I'm saying. There are true automobile accident claims with insurance companies that have some of the following stories. One person reported after the accident, an invisible car just showed up out of nowhere. Wow. Number 2 story is this. Somebody said, I was having rear end trouble while on the way to my doctor's office and my universal joint just went out. That's a tough story. You see, so often we hear these kinds of stories. One of the most amazing that I heard and that I heard this gentleman share was this. And he said that one person told their insurance agent that to avoid rear-ending the automobile in front of me, I swerved and hit the pedestrian. Really? You see what I'm trying to say? They're trying to find excuses out of why this thing happened in their life. Do not make excuses. In other words, instead of making excuses, examine yourself. Be accountable to yourself for your actions and for your decisions. If we are going to find success, we have to be intentional. Nobody makes me be accountable. So many people are running around in our world today that are valley dwellers, and the reason they are is because they're not accountable to themselves, and they feel like they have no accountability to anybody sometimes. They're not persistent. They will start, but the moment the door closes, the moment things get tough, the moment the heat hits the kitchen, they're running. They don't want it bad enough. You remember the last point I gave you yesterday? If you're willing to pay the price, you could have very well found your purpose. And you will know, because if you're willing to pay the price, usually you'll be intentional enough about being persistent. But what happens when everything seems to shut down? I shared with you stories of those who have struggled to find their success, from homelessness to living in mansions, from nothing to owning cars and property, from being a nobody to becoming a somebody. You see, I'm talking about how to find success in your life. And you may never be on the scale or on the stage of some people, but even in finding it in your personal life as being the best husband or the best wife you can be, or being a new entrepreneur that is starting out and is starting off fresh, or maybe you're a seasoned entrepreneur and looking for a new level of success, then you know these things. You know that in order to achieve success, you have to be persistent. You have to be persistent. You have to hold yourself accountable. Nobody's going to hold the business person accountable with their finances except them. Nobody's going to hold them accountable other than themselves. Nobody's going to hold the wife accountable, their husband accountable for monogamous relationship except for them. Nobody is going to hold the parent accountable for being a good parent except for them originally. You see, the thing is that it has to start with me. And if I'm not willing to be intentional about how I live my life, if I'm not willing to be intentional about how I'm going to move forward in my life, then who's going to be intentional about it? If I'm not going to be intentional about the way I think and having the right perspective and choosing to change my mind if I'm the pessimist and become the optimist, and if I'm the optimist, continue to live in optimism. Because how many of you know even the optimist has days they struggle. I'm a very optimistic person. I always find the silver lining in every cloud, and I'm always looking at the positives in every scenario and every situation. But if I'm being honest with you, there are days and there are moments in my life where I struggle to find the positivity. And so I have to determine within myself that I will be positive even in this scenario, in this situation. Not only that, I have to say I'm going to be persistent. I cannot tell you the times that I have had doors closed. I cannot tell you the times that I've been told I'm not good enough. I cannot tell you the times that I've been told I'll never amount to anything. I cannot tell you the times that I've had people tell me that my reasons for doing what I do is wrong motives and this and that. I can't tell you the times that I've heard these comments and had doors closed in my life and had to wait for another door to open. But you know what I did not do? I did not sit back and idly wait. I believe that we have to make things happen. I don't believe things just happen. Things don't just happen. I hear people say, well, if it's meant to be, it'll be. No, if it's meant to be, you need to go after it. And you need to make it happen because nobody else is going to make it happen. You have to go after it with effort. If you're a person of faith, then you know this because the word says that faith without works is dead. See, there's people who are valley dwellers who are sitting in the valley thinking, well, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. It'll come to me. I'll be successful. No, that's an untrue statement. That's an unbiblical statement. You have to go after it. Anybody that has achieved success knows that it took persistence. It didn't just happen. And the third thing I've shared with you so far is that you have to be accountable. You have to have personal accountability in your life if you're going to achieve any type of success. Now, the fourth thing I want to talk to you about is be present. Be present. How many of you know today is a gift? Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is called the present. Why? Because a present is a gift. It's a gift to you today, and how you manage it and how you manage your minutes is crucial. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because when we talk about the present, we have to understand that in dealing with the present, we have to live on purpose today. I can't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow is tomorrow. I have to make the most of today. Tomorrow's going to come. Tomorrow's going to happen with or without me. Yesterday came, it's gone. I can't get it back. But what I have is right here, right now. And I have to learn that if I'm going to live a life of intentionality, if I'm going to be intentional, which is developing my purpose. If I'm going to be intentional about developing my purpose, then I have to have the right perspective. I have to remain optimistic because I know this is who I am and this is why I'm here. And this is what I'm meant to do. I have to be persistent because everything worth having, I've already shared this in a past teaching, but everything worth having is always an uphill climb. Always. That's why I call it mountain climbers. It's always an uphill climb. It's never going to come easy. See, the problem is in life, we want everything to come easy. We want it to be the downhill slide versus the uphill climb. It's always funner sliding downhill because you just don't have to put any effort in. It happens automatically. But here's the catch. You build endurance by climbing uphill. You build experience by climbing uphill. And so climbing uphill helps us. It educates us. It enables us to help others climb uphill. It empowers us to say we've climbed up the hill. You see? And so wherever it is you're in life right now, you have to understand that in order to develop my purpose, I have to be intentional and I have to be persistent in being intentional. I can't take no is off the table. No is off the table. I will not take no for an answer. Be persistent. Now, you might have to go to another door because the problem is we all focus in on one door. We go to one door and we say, this is my door. Okay, well, maybe you open that door. Maybe your key of purpose unlocks that door. But what if you only have that one door? Have you ever heard the old expression and the old adage, don't put all your eggs in what? One basket? You see, being persistent means that I'm going to go to every door. I'm going to knock on every door I can. I'm going to talk to every person I can. I'm going to use every resource I can. And I'm going to find ways to be persistent about my purpose. Number 3, personal accountability. Look, learn, and be intentional about holding yourself accountable. What is your bad habits? What is the things that are holding you back from finding success right now? Maybe the person was watching right now and they say, I want to be more physically fit. That is my purpose. That is my goal in this. I want to find a physically healthy life. Okay, then when you go to the grocery store, hold yourself personally accountable and do not buy things that are unhealthy. Don't buy the sweets. Don't buy the junk food. Don't buy the fried potato chips. Buy things that are going to help you, because what you do at the grocery store and being accountable there is going to flow over into your home life. If all I have in my house is snack cakes and Twinkies, and all I have is oatmeal cakes, and I've got Snickers candy bars, and I've got cakes and pies and fried foods, then I can tell you what's not going to happen. What's not going to happen is I'm not going to live and fulfill my goal of success in being healthy. Now, I say that because here's the catch. So many people say, well, I just don't know why I'm not feeling better, and I don't know why I'm not being healthier, and I don't, I just don't know. I can tell you why, because you don't have any personal accountability when it comes to this. You're not holding yourself responsible for the decisions you made at the grocery store, for the decisions you made when you made your grocery list. Does it make sense to you now? So apply that to whatever area of life you're talking about and hold yourself personally accountable. And let me say this, I'm not beating up anybody, because if you go in my kitchen right now and look at my cupboards, there's all kinds of junk food. But what I'm saying is I've not made the decision in my life at this moment to be healthy like that. Right? So then we have to be present. We have to be present, and we have to understand that to be present means I have to intentionally live out this day in my purpose. You say, well, I've not quite discovered my purpose yet, Jody. Keep on the journey of discovering it, but once you discover it, begin developing it. And even now, begin applying the developmental stages of being intentional in your life, and get the proper perspective, push in persistence, be personally accountable for the decisions and the actions you have in your life, and be present. Be present. Realize that you have the 24 hours that you had today is here. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's here right now. And so I encourage you that if you're the kind of person that wants to develop and put the pieces together of development and develop your purpose, then you have to first discover your purpose, but then begin developing your purpose. And not only that, you have to be intentional. The first stage of developing your purpose is to be intentional. Now you can imagine, as we look at this scene and I get ready to close this session, you can imagine that if you are in the valleys down there where the fog is laying, you're not seeing much. You're always looking up, wondering what it looks like from the top. You see, some of the phrases we use get mistranslated. And so when I say from the top, why don't you maybe you're the housewife right now and you're saying, I want to be a better wife and a better mother. Then be at the top of that classification of people. Don't say, I want to be better. I want to be the best. I want to be known as the best wife and mother in my town. I want everybody to know if they need to know how to be a good wife and a good mother, they can come to me because I'm the expert, right? That's what I mean by looking at the top. And when you get to the top, you appreciate how you got there, and the view is spectacular. In closing today, most of you may know this and some of you may not, but I lived in the mountains of Western North Carolina. I share this in my book that I wrote, Going All In, Finding Success Through Surrender. But I lived in the mountains of North Carolina for 7 years. And when I first moved there, I found that I was not accustomed to and acclimated to climbing the hills. But behind where I lived in a little valley area, but behind where I lived, you could go and you could walk for a couple miles and you would be at the peak of a mountain on the Appalachian Trail. Some people say Appalachian, okay? On the Appalachian or Appalachian Trail. And I actually went up there on many occasions, and I can tell you folks that it was a beautiful, amazing view. I saw things by climbing the mountain that I never would have saw. I experienced things by climbing the mountain that I never would have experienced had I stayed a valley dweller. But I made up my mind I was going to put in whatever effort it took to get to the top of that mountain. And I climbed and made it to the top. Now, I did not have to use a climbing axe or pick, and I didn't have to use specialized shoes, and I didn't have to rappel. I didn't have to do any of that. It was a matter of walking. It was a matter of walking up the mountain. But I want you to know so many people that I knew never would walk up the mountain to get the view. I want to encourage you today. If you are going to be successful, that's what this whole segment is about. It's what it's all about, right? It's all about how to be successful. How to be successful. And if you're going to know how to be successful in 30 days or less, you've got to apply the teachings that I've already given to you in how to find and discover your purpose. But secondly, you're going to have to follow that up. It takes work, right? It takes persistence. It takes intentionality. But you're going to have to follow that up with being intentional and developing your personality. Your purpose. You're developing your purpose. And you're going to have to do that to be successful. And I want to encourage you, develop it by being intentional. Let me show it to you one more time in case you didn't get the notes and you want to write it down. Okay? And so develop it in being intentional. To be intentional, you have to have the right perspective. Continue to be persistent. Take personal accountability and responsibility for your actions and your decisions you make. And then be present. Be present in today. Make the most of right now. Do what you can right now. If you don't have the skill set to do everything you feel you're being led to do what you can. Can I tell you, when I started doing these videos, it was me and my cell phone sitting in a chair outside talking to people, trying to encourage them. And now look what I'm able to do because I kept being persistent. I encourage you, you can find success, but you have to be willing to be persistent and be intentional and take personal accountability and be present and have the right perspective. So I hope that this has been a blessing to you, and I hope you'll join me again tomorrow night for day 6 as we continue talking about the number 2 way that you have to begin to develop your purpose. Until then, God bless you and have a great night.